everyone. Happy Sunday. I've got animals surrounding me. I've got Jack right here on the desk. Luca's back there. So hopefully, I guess they're happy. I don't know. All right. So I hope you guys are doing well and having a nice, lazy Sunday. That's possible. I wanted to just real quick do a little bit of business, and then I just had like an opening like question that somebody had sent me by email, and then I'll go to the chat. And as you know, if you're here, you probably know this is a spiritual kind of content show, and so you can ask your spiritual questions. If I know the answer, I'll answer. If I don't, I will hand it to my guides, and I'll do my best to translate what they say. So just a few like businessy things. So I'm going to be ending the psychic readings, and so I have through February available. As far as I know, there's only some dates in February. There might be one still in January. The rest of them are in February, and then they're ending. And so, and for the, I don't know how long, in the foreseeable future. It could be never. It could be never. I never do it again. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. But I want to let you know that, so that if you want a appointment, you can get one. And I'm not going to keep a list. What is it called? A wait list. I'm not gonna do a wait list because I don't know when. I don't want people on a wait list for a year or 2 years or something. So I don't know when I'm going to be doing them again. So anyways, they're ending in February. Grab one if you want one. If you don't, it doesn't matter. And then if you are, I may do some mentoring session. I'm still not sure. But if I do, I'm not going to announce it. I'll email you directly. So if you, because it won't be very many. And so if you're interested in that, just send me an email, and I have a list, and I'll put you on the list. And if I decide to do some, you'll get an email from me. Okay. So, and I'm not sure about classes. I'm going to be doing my last class, starts tomorrow. It's full, so there's no more space in it. And then again, for live classes, I'm not sure. So I will have my I'll be adding to the recorded classes, and the recorded classes are always there. So you can always get those if you want them, and if you need those or have interest in any of those areas. My hope is for next year to really just do the channel, which is the Sunday show and the Thursday show, and throw in a little politics here and there when it's necessary, or when I feel like it's necessary, every once in a while, and then have the club. And so if you're wanting, like, we do mini readings every month, we have a movie club, spiritual discussions, things like that. So if you're wanting that, that will be the live thing that I do. So besides Sunday, so and Thursdays and Sundays are live, but it'll be more personal, you know, and so that will be available, and you can read about the club on intuitiview.com, and that's just ongoing, and it's monthly, so you can get, you know, be in it and drop it at your, you know, however, whatever's going on in your life, and you have that. Okay. But that's my hope, is that I'm just going to have those two things going, just the channel and the club next year. So yeah, so I hope that's everything. I think that it is. All right. And so I had a question that came through email, and they were talking about how much they were struggling right now with everything going on. It's so depressing. It's so difficult. It's really affecting me, and that kind of thing. And what I will say is, we've kind of talked about this a few times, but I kind of want to take a different approach at it, because I think we kind of talked about when Humpty Dumpty got back, and we talked about, you know, what's going to be happening really isn't it's not going to be the same lessons for everybody, right? For us, it's going to be about kind of turning inward, working on things like, because we're talking about people that are already compassionate, already are helpful, already, feel responsibility for each other. Those people, you can call it, maybe you call yourself an empath or a highly sensitive person, or maybe you're just extremely compassionate and empathetic. Those people need to work on self. They need to work on self-love. They need to work on self-care. They need to work on things like do their shadow work. They need to work on healing trauma and doing inner child work and things like that. And when we do that, and at the same time, we're keeping our vibration high, and we are healing ourselves and thereby healing the collective, helping to heal the collective, right? Because we're all part of the collective. That's what we're supposed to be working on. And why it's so challenging is because our impulse as compassionate people or empathetic people is to want to reach out and want to help and be focused on that. And that's why it's our challenge, right? It's very challenging for us. We don't have a problem being compassionate or helping or doing whatever. So, and it doesn't mean you can't give money or do what you can, but there's so much that we're seeing right now that we really can't do anything about. We're just kind of witness to it, right? So like last week, I talked about fasting and praying, right? That's something very personal that you can do, that you can kind of do everything at once, where you're maybe fasting for a purpose, but maybe you're fasting for your own inner development as well. It sounds, to an empath, to a compassionate person, it sounds selfish. It sounds like, well, how can we just worry about ourselves when all this stuff is happening in the world? But that's the point. It's hard for us to do that, right? That's why it's a challenge. That's why it's difficult. That's why you have to move past that idea that it's selfish and realize that this is what we need to work on. This is the call to duty right now, is to heal, work on, help love ourselves. And the people that they're going through all of these things, their thing is having to learn compassion for others, right? We've talked about the empath and the narcissist, but so that's what I would say. So that's the hard thing to get around. It's really hard to do that for people that care, that want to help, I also want to tell you too that a lot of times empaths, compassionate people, it's more comfortable to help other people because they don't want to look at their own stuff. They don't want to look at that messy stuff or bring up that shadow side or bring up that trauma or bring up whatever. They want to help heal out here because it's hard. It's painful. It's difficult. And we have to get over that guilt feeling, right? Of focusing on myself. I feel guilty about that. Those are the things we need to work on and get past. Okay. And so I would say that to this person. So that's kind of where we are right now. So therefore, and also I always keep mentioning in the beginning of the year, the guide said, this is your remedy for what you're going to be going through. Protect your energy, check in every day. A few breaths, just checking in with spirit every day so that you can have your gift of discernment. So you can tell what's true. Basically, because like we said, everything's coming out. It's all coming up. And for you to be able to sift through it and know what to believe and who to believe and what's going on and where are we, you need to check in every day so that you're connected to your higher self and therefore connected to the divine. And then the other part of this email, I would say, protect your energy, right? That was one of the things we're supposed to do. And if you're upset by everything happening in the world, what that tells me is that you're watching the news and you're getting involved in that stuff. And once again, empaths feel like, well, I have to know what's going on because I have to help. Well, that's not our call right now. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be working on our own stuff. And when we do that, we can shine the brightest. That's when we can, and we're also, when we heal ourselves, we're healing the collective. We're helping to do that. we're getting rid of the darkness, the shadows. We're working with those things, and we're kind of integrating it and therefore kind of facing it, right? We talked about facing fears and not falling into fear and things like that, because fear is a big thing right now. It's a big energy right now. Lots of people are in fear. Yeah, so protect your energy, which means keep your vibration high. And if you're feeling confused and upset and all of these things, that's telling you that your vibration is lowering. It's really simple. Things that make you feel good are raising your vibration. Things that make you feel bad are lowering your vibration. And we're not, when we mean good, we don't mean happy. We mean kind of content, peaceful, joyful, working in your garden, painting, sitting with animals, being in nature, taking a walk, and anytime you're in the present moment, right? You're connected. You're in that higher vibrational state. Okay, so I hope that helps. And I think too, another thing about empaths that I've noticed, at least I've noticed it in myself, is that because we are sort of natural helpers and healers, we kind of like drama. We kind of want to be in there, getting our hands dirty and seeing, well, what's going on, because I want to help somewhere. It's feeding a need that we have here, and saying, no, that's not what you're working on. Now you're working on yourself and something different. It's hard to pull away from all the stuff that needs to be done because we're so good at that. we can heal everybody. We can do everything. And to be told, no, that's not your thing. It's not what you're here to do. You're here to work on your own stuff, hold the light, make it as bright as you can, and kind of hold space for other people that are trying to learn compassion right now, that are going through a lot. Okay. It's easier said than done, right? It really, really is, especially for empaths. It's just like, oh my gosh. Thank you, Janine. Very good advice. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's almost pushing us that way, right? Because it is like so overwhelming that you're just like, okay, I'm just going to stay here. It is like that. So yeah, yeah. And kind of, yeah, exactly. And you may have found too in your life, just to prove the drama factor, you may have found that you are attracted to people that have a lot of problems and have a lot of drama going on. And then you try to get in there and fix or try to help or what, and I'm seeing over and over again in private readings and in other conversations with a club and stuff, that we're part of the empath journey, or a very compassionate person, empathetic person. Part of their journey is setting down boundaries, having to set down boundaries, because there are people that are not ready to be helped, or they don't really want help. They just want to complain about their life, and you can't be the one taking it all on and stuff. So we're having to set down boundaries as well. And that's very hard for empaths to do, because we want to help, we want to heal. And we have to really help and heal ourselves. And that's the way that we're adding to the collective right now, which is very foreign to us for lifetimes, probably. So, yeah. So, and it's difficult. It's difficult looking at your own shadows and stuff. It really, really is. And we all have them. We all have these patterns that are part of the human condition. And they're in us too. No matter how good we try to be or how much we want to help or whatever, we still have these sides that need to be addressed and faced and looked into. And I know a lot of us, it's fear. That's part of our shadow, is facing fears. So, and at the beginning of the year, right, we talked about how this does not need to be the year of Humpty Dumpty. It doesn't need to be the year of, everything fraying and in chaos. If it could be, the year you start writing your book, or the year that you go to therapy, or the year that you decide to once and for all get healthy, or whatever. It doesn't have to be about that. And if you're looking to heal yourself and help yourself, think of what you want this year to be for you, regardless of the noise and the chaos and stuff. Regardless of that, what is it that you want to sort of contribute by looking inward, knowing what makes you happy, knowing what brings you joy. It doesn't mean that you can't take part in a protest, but make sure that it's something you really want to do and that lifts you up, makes you feel really good. Because we don't want to lower that vibration. We don't want to, that's what we don't want to do. In fact, Eckhart Tolle, which you can drink, has always says, when you come across, I would say, well, he says unconscious people, but I would say even unconscious situations, that the most important thing is for you to stay conscious, meaning you are very aware that I'm a spirit having a human experience and that we're all divine beings and this is just an experience, and staying linked into that and not getting drawn into the 3D drama and all the stuff happening, right? Not getting drawn into that, staying conscious, right? And the way you do that is the present moment. It's always the way you can go back to just putting your feet on the ground and taking a few deep breaths, and really mindful deep breaths. He also says that one mindful deep breath is a meditation. Okay? It doesn't have to be a long drawn out thing or doing such and such every single day. It does not have to be about that. When you need it, take a big deep breath, stop and just take a big deep breath. Go put your feet in grass. Do the things that make you feel good and raise that vibration. Listen to music, dance around. That's how we're going to help and heal the collective. It's doing our part. The part that's hard for us, that's not easy for us to do. Okay, so that's what I'll say about that. All right, so Gina, question. I belonged to an Infinite Way group in my late teens, early 20s. 1 second. Get my glasses on, glasses off. Pinch myself. Okay. Okay. I don't believe. All right. I belong to Infinite Way group in my late teens, early 20s. Eckhart sometimes mentions the founder, Joel Goldsmith. He was an amazing healer. He said, drop the disease and align yourself with spirit. See the truth of the other person as a divine being. Can the guides please help me understand, is there anything I am missing? I want to be of service if I can. And we just talked about that, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, right? If that's where your joy lies, that's where your joy lies. It's just that, a lot of us do these things maybe not because we feel joy doing them, but because we feel compelled to do it. And that's different. That's different. Okay, so can the guys please understand if there's anything I am missing? Drop the disease and align yourself. Okay. Disease and align yourself. So they're talking about aligning. It's like aligning the human life force with divine energy. So it's like a clean, going through you. And the way that they're putting, or the way I'm feeling it is like that it's, when he says like drop the disease, what it means is that when you have that complete alignment with your own life force and the divine, there isn't any, it's almost like there's no room for it. So it falls away. Yeah, and I think actually, yeah, James just said this because that's what they're alluding to right now. Just by being present, we are of service, and that's a way of doing it, right? Is being in the present moment. We talk about how that sort of aligns you with that higher wisdom. You're at your peak point of power. So there is also something about the healer or the person wanting to heal themselves being in the present, because that's what does it. So being very intentional, having that intention of aligning your life force with spirit energy. So it's just like this clean line running right through you. And when you have that kind of perfect alignment, when you're in the present and you have that intention of aligning that perfectly with your life force energy, right? And I feel like that's how a lot of people have like Kundalini awakenings and things like that. But it's as if by doing that, things that are like diseases, basically of a different kind of makeup, it's almost like it doesn't fit there, and so it falls away. And I guess as a healer, having that intention of dropping it, of letting it fall, letting it or allowing it to fall away is important. So I hope that answers that, Gina. Okay. And then we have a DT. Is that right? Yeah, a DT. What exactly went wrong with my friend Fulguni that she scored low in the final exam, or there are any fault in her correction? What is the reason? Was it that she wasn't prepared, or what? So I'm not sure I'm understanding this. This is a good question. Okay. I felt every day I took her time bothering her for every single thing. Maybe that frustrated her. So it sounds like a friend took an exam. You tried to help the friend. I'm going to ask, and in this show, it's not really a personal readings show. That the personal readings I do. Sorry, I'm looking for a pencil sharpener. The personal readings I do, like mini readings I do in the club. But I try to kind of make it more of a collective question. So I'm going to ask about more in general, when we have prepared well for something, but it still doesn't work out. What is that? What should we take from that? What may be going on? So they're saying kind of simply, they're like, there could be a lesson involved for that person that they can't sidestep, that they have to go through. But they're also saying that there could be things in the subconscious that are at play, meaning things that they're maybe not aware of, where they feel unworthy to get into or to pass the test or things like that, or they feel like they're stupid or something like that, like they're not capable, even though they completely are, but they may have an underlying kind of unworthiness or like these like limiting beliefs when they talk about that. So they're pointing out that it could be something subconscious that kind of is there that they need to address first, and then once that's out of the way, then it's like, oh, I can learn and retain information, and I don't. And part of it too, they're saying it's a she overthinks and overanalyzes, and that's us too much in our head. Really, especially when we there has to be when we studied and we had the we had the information, somewhere in here, we have to go into things like a test with a bit of trust that the information is there and the information will come. And it sounds like what a lot of people do, and I know I did this as a teenager. I did fine in school, but I was bad at tests. And it was always, I think it was partly limiting beliefs for me, but I was always overthinking. And I feel like this is part of it too. Okay, so hopefully that helps. Do we astral travel every night? Is there a way we can ask for a specific encounter? Is there a way we can recall these? Yeah. Okay, so I feel like, no, we don't travel every night. That may cause controversy, but we do work every night. And so either we're working on our own stuff, facing things if we need to face, so we can't face in the daytime, or things are brought up to us in a certain way so we can deal with them or work through them. Things may be taught, we're learning as well. And but we also travel. Some people travel regularly because they have a job to do or something they have promised to do, or that's part of their life plan. But as far as retaining things or having specific experiences, moving into things like setting the intention the night before or during the day even. And also, you could also try to work on, this is just me talking, you might try working on, things like, what are they called? Lucid dreaming and things like that, and kind of out-of-body experiences, things like that, where you can more learn the steps and then do them, right? There's very specific things you need to do to have a lucid dreaming experience, and those are really cool. Those, I've had those before, and they're really, really, really cool. Yeah. And to me, having a lucid dreaming experience is much easier than having an out-of-body experience. I've never had an astral travel experience that I know of. I've had the out-of-body experience that I had, but it took a long time, and it was much more. It was a much bigger deal. Took a lot longer to integrate once it had happened. So, but lucid dreaming is really cool, and it's we're used to being in the dream state, so it's not so different that it just seems like, oh, this is so weird. You probably had experiences where you've woken up in your dream. You realize in your dream that, oh yeah, yeah. Okay, so I hope that helps. Okay, so Craig, while I sleep, I know I travel sometimes. I don't remember where exactly, but I know I'm protected. Now more of the messages are coming in clearer with Clara, since all of this makes us who we are. When we get to heaven, are we complete? So, Craig, I feel like I'm getting that we're always whole. We're always complete. When we say like we're here to learn to expand and to grow as spirits, it doesn't mean anything's wrong with us. That's more of a earthly thing, right? Because earthly, we have to learn certain things to get along here, to be here and to be functional and that kind of thing. But for our spiritual growth, everything's a choice. We're fine just the way we are. We're fine. But there's something in us, from what I've understood too from other readings, is that as spirits, we have an innate curiosity and a great um, urge to create, as well as to know things, to know more, right? To learn, right? Which goes along with curiosity as well. And so, trying to get like some sort of analogy. Well, it's like people that go on in education that they just want to learn more about a subject. It's not necessarily going to do anything for them as well, as far as like get them a better job or anything like that. They're just interested. They just want to know. And that's really more of the spiritual state that we're in, but it's not that we're not complete, or not that we're something's missing. We have to come to Earth or something's going to be missing. No. It's, believe it or not, we like coming here. It's fun. It's interesting. I expand my knowledge. I expand my understandings. I can be really creative in a different way. And that's what spirits love. That's what we love. And but there's nothing missing. We're not incomplete. As people, we feel that all the time, right? We feel like we're always working on ourselves, as far as like self-help and spirituality and trying to be a better person and things like that. That's a very earthly thing. We're complete as spirits. We're fine. If you left, you did your life review, talked to your spirit family and said, I don't think I'm going to go back to Earth, they'd be like, okay. And you'd be like, okay. And you just would do whatever you want to do. And that's the way it is. And there's nothing, it's not like, oh, you didn't finish, and so therefore you're not going to be the super spirit. There's nothing like that. It's just, and it doesn't mean that it's not important when we're here, because this is a big deal to come here. It's not easy to do. We're kind of all in the middle of kind of our semester of learning, so we're all wanting to learn to our satisfaction, but it really is us. It's nobody's peering over us or watching over us or making us do stuff or even judging us. That's just not a thing. We judge ourselves, Yeah, they just said creativity again. So there's a lot to do with what we're doing here that has to do with creativity. And I think that's part of what we love as spirits as well. But we're adding to or extending onto something that's already whole, right? It's like a tree that has branches. The stuff that we're adding on is just branches. The tree's already there, right? Okay, so I hope that makes sense. And I hope it takes some of the pressure off, right? We don't need that pressure of like, I have to get everything done, and what if I don't? No. It doesn't work like that. It's okay. Everything is fine. I feel like that's part of my role, is to take away the fear of dying, first of all, and not having that fear, because that's not a thing. And also the fear of living in a way that you're going to make mistakes or not do stuff right or whatever. No, don't do that. It's not true. It's not true. You're fine. You're fine. The challenge here is keeping that vibration high, right? Keeping the vibration high and help the collective in that way. And it's hard to do in this environment. It's hard to do. Okay. Kim, how do spirits see you when you do mediumship? Like, do you have a certain color aura? I know it's vibration, but can they be more specific? How do spirits see you when you do mediumship? So you're asking if I'm sitting here doing mediumship, how do they see me? What are they saying? So I just heard they perceive you in your entirety. And I find it interesting they're saying perceive, not see, because they're not seeing, right, with eyes, they're perceiving. And they get, because of that, they're getting a much fuller picture. So your entirety. So they're seeing like my physical, like what I look like physical, but they're making me feel like they can see my light body. And I feel like if they want to, they can see my aura as well. So it's kind of a decision that they make. It's think of if you had if you could see with your eyes, and then you had certain glasses where you could see other things. You had night vision glasses, and you had, you can put on different glasses to see other things, and that's kind of how their perception is. It can shift and change. So it really is a shift. It's a shift in kind of perception focus, because it makes me feel like they can just see me as I am, like what I look like to you guys. They can shift into another perception mode and see my light body, like what I look like when I'm there. They can shift into a different mode and see my aura. So that's what it is, Lily. So I hope that makes sense. And what an interesting question. I've never even thought about that, even though I'm sitting here and and doing this. I've never thought to look at it that way. That was a really good question. Okay. So Janine, Kim, sometimes before I wake in the morning, I can have a time or episodes where someone, family member, said something to me that hurt my feelings, but at that time I didn't respond. Why is this? Okay. So I feel like what you're asking is that sometimes upon awaking, you kind of, it's almost like you're replaying, or you're re-seeing things that may have happened, that you, maybe something that it doesn't feel like it was completed, like you didn't have the right comeback, or you didn't have the right thing, or you're hurt all over again because it's coming back to you. So at least that's the way I'm understanding the question. Let me ask, why is this? Okay, so they're saying a couple of things. So they're saying that this is partly like continuing to process something, and it's almost like in that time, in that space, everything is very relaxed, but so it's as if your mind kicks into gear, like, oh, my mind's awake, but you don't have the control over it that you normally would in you're waking up. So you choose what you think about, right? Sometimes it doesn't feel like that, but maybe with something like this, you wouldn't choose to think about it, but it's still there. It doesn't mean like it's gone somewhere. It's there in your memory bank. It's there. So they're saying it's partly just it may be something to look at, something to, maybe something isn't, maybe something from it needs to be understood or further looked into. And they're saying too that when things like that come up that are very self-focused, it's usually our higher self coming in and saying, look at this, or you didn't deal with this yet, or this is hanging around. You need to look at it and fix it, right? So they're saying things like that come from the higher self rather than like the spirit realm. And it has to do with where your mind is and how you're kind of in that kind of open, less controlled state where you're kind of just open to information and things coming in. But they're saying it's usually the higher self saying, you know, you need to look at this or deal with this, or it's still hanging around and you may want to look at it. Anyway, that's what I'm getting. So I hope that helps. Oh, nice, Craig. You're gonna go see Sound of Music. That's kind of timely in a way. The Van Trapp family, Von Trapp family. Escape the Nazis. Okay. Okay. I love that they're seeing mediumships. If we live multiple lifetimes, how are they able to take the form of the one you call on? Okay, so this is something that I know because I've asked this many times, and I've had many, especially before I did the Thursday Night Live, because I wanted to understand what was happening, right? I wanted to understand what was going on. So basically, so let me start here. We're all part of a collective, right? We're all connected, all of us. And this is the next part. It's going to be hard to understand because it's just so different from the way we are. Most of the time, we send an aspect of ourselves to have a lifetime. And our higher self is still kind of in the spirit realm or very, and it's weird to say because it feels like it's way up there and we're way down here, but it's not. It's all connected. So so your higher self is there, and it's connected to your, I would say, like an oversoul, I guess. And so I'm just listening. So you send an aspect of your oversoul here, right? And that's your higher self. And it's the animator of this thing happening here. It gives that's the spiritual life force that's there, right? That enters the body when you come into being and leaves when you're done. And so that aspect of that soul comes and speaks to us. The aspect of their oversoul, let's just call it that, their oversoul, that aspect is coming in to talk to us. And it seems so weird when we're like, Elvis is coming in and so is coming in. But you have to understand that we're all a collective. We're all, and all they're doing is coming in to help us. That's all they're doing. They're coming in to give us the answer the questions, to hand over the wisdom that they have and that they got from that lifetime. And they're wanting to, because we haven't had, you just have to listen to the messages, because we haven't had someone come in and say something really horrible and negative. They all come in from this enlightened point of view. It's so clear that they're connected to more. They take on the personality and the traits that we recognize, and they give us little hints about, to validate, this is really me, this is really me. So they do that. And that might be the show part, because they're coming in as that person. But it's that person, that spirit that's coming in is connected to their oversoul, the complete soul, right? It's just an aspect. And so that's what they're doing for us. They're giving us that experience, and they're coming in as that aspect. And they know how powerful that aspect was, because it's still remembered here. It still has energy here, right? And I think that's another thing too, is that we hear NDEs all the time, and even Spirit has talked about the ripple effect, right? We can do one kind thing and it has this ripple effect, and their energy is still rippling, right? Because they're still known. You know, we still know who Janis Joplin is. We still know who, and they have their life, and it's still, because they had music here and things like that, it's still having this ripple effect. So they're very much still, in a way, that energy is still here. It's still residing here. You know, their higher self may not still be embodied here, but their energy is still here for sure. But that's what they're doing. They're just coming in to help us, and they love to, like I said, it's very much part of us as souls to want to know, to be curious. I want to know. I want to have that experience. I want to, you know, and thereby expand. You know, grow. The oversoul grows more. It becomes you know, filled with even more knowledge, you know, that kind of thing. But there isn't anything wrong with the soul before that, as we were talking about before. But this, as I understand it, Moon Compass, it's an aspect. It's just an aspect of their soul. But they're coming in because they love us. That we're all connected. And in this life, it seems like, oh my gosh, we're talking to so and so, but we're all connected. We're all connected, right? We're all family. You know, we're all family in that way. We might be having different things we're trying to do or accomplish or whatever, but we're all one. We really are. And that's what we talked about at the beginning, that if you do heal your traumas and heal yourself and face your shadows and do your inner child work and work on ancestral healing and things like it is healing the collective, because we're all connected. We're all one, right? So anyway, I didn't mean to get off on that, but I hope that explains that. It's hard to think of, and I don't know. I've heard the concept that we're living a bunch of lives at the same time. It could be, but I feel like we don't fully understand. Well, I should say I fully don't understand all the ways like timelines work, because you can have a lifetimes are not linear, right? Just because our timeline on Earth looks, you know, is, you know, this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened. When we live a lifetime, it doesn't necessarily work like that. We could have a lifetime in the French Revolution, and then we could have a lifetime in the 60s, and then we could have a lifetime in the 80s, and we could have, you know, we jump around. And I think that's where the idea of different aspects comes into play. I don't like to confuse myself, and when I get into that stuff, even though I've heard it, like in the Seth materials and things like that, it's too confusing to me, and that's when I know I need to pull back and just go back to basics, because that's when you can confuse yourself and get too much in your head and too much in your brain, and I just think it's not for me to understand yet, because I don't get it. And so that might be good for you guys too. Not that you shouldn't want to know stuff, but when you start to just get frustrated and confused by something, just know that, okay, I'm not really there yet, but I will be, because it's clearly something I'm wondering about and interested in. And when we have that, our guides, the universe, it provides the answers eventually, but I'm just not there yet in understanding all of that stuff. And so without getting into the weeds of all that, Moon Compass, I'll just say it's an aspect of the oversoul that's coming in and taking that form, because it's the form we recognize, and it's also the life experience we want to draw from. They're here to help us because they love us. So, okay. All right. Yeah, so I had one of these recently too, Carrie, and I asked this question, but I'm gonna ask for you. As you say, I recently had a dream that felt like a psychic attack. Was it just a bad dream, or something more. Okay. 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 So they're saying that it has something that a lot of people that are sensitive are going to be having these things, and they're not psychic attacks. They're not. What they're saying is that there is a lot of fear energy out there right now, and a lot of intensity, like kind of intense. I don't think they want me to say angry energy, but it's like kind of more intense energy, and that everything is just energy. But if you're sensitive, things that you are afraid of might come up when in your dream state. Things that you might find intense or bleh in your dream state, those things might come up because it's all energy. And these are very prominent energies right now. Fear and this kind of intenseness. That's another word for it. Not angry. It's not angry. It's more kind of like, yeah, tense or intense. Maybe chaotic, maybe that as well. But, and so you'll have things like things you're afraid of, or things that bring up fear in you come up in your sleeping, when you're asleep. Okay, so they're saying to in your dream, before you go to sleep, remind yourself, okay, I could have an intense dream, or I could have a fearful dream that makes me fear. I'm going to face it in my dream. And so try to set yourself up so that in the dream you can face the fear. Know that all I do is call on my guides, and I face my fear, so that it's almost like you're setting yourself up to kind of have a lucid dream, to remember this is just a fear coming up. This is not like a real attack. It isn't that. So, but they're being very firm about this and saying it's just energy. But people that are sensitive, it may play out in the dream state. It may bring up things that are within you and that you're afraid of in the dream state, and that it's an opportunity to face it. Whether you face it when you wake up and say, wow, that's weird. I was always afraid of spiders. Why am I screaming about spiders again? That's really weird. I need to work on that fear or whatever. Yeah, so that's what they're saying that it is. It's the kind of intense, fearful, and chaotic kind of energy that's there. And if you're sensitive, you're going to pick it up in different states. In your waking state, in your sleeping state, you're going to be picking stuff up, and it's going to take, and it takes those weird forms because of the brain, right? It has to go through the brain, so it's going to take these weird forms for us. But it's not. Don't be afraid that you're under attack. For goodness sake, don't add more fear. Just know that this is what's happening, and this is that you can handle it. Your guides don't leave you when you sleep; they're still there. So don't worry about that. About an actual attack happening. That's not, yeah. And if you're really worried about it or anything, bubble up before you go to sleep. Just bubble up if you're nervous about it, or when you are nervous about it. Okay. Okay. Was there, a universal shift in consciousness after CK's assassination? So, a couple of things they're talking about. One is that so much of what's happening right now is revelatory. It's revealing things, showing who people are, showing what they're about, showing how they really feel, things like that. So part of it was to bring up even more truth, revelatory, revealing. I mean, it did that. That's kind of like that's what it did, because that's the energy right now, right? We talked about everything's coming up, everything's coming out. And so this kind of high intensity incident, it brought stuff up. The other thing they're talking about is that a rise in consciousness, or raising your consciousness, it's a free will choice. It's not that it just happens to you. There's a shift, but there's an internal choice going on. And so what they're saying is that this opened the door for an opportunity to shift, right? So there probably were people that maybe they were there and they witnessed it, and they had kind of a shift in the way they think about guns, and that opened them up to be a bit more compassionate and understanding. They hadn't had that experience before, and now they have, and they see it's horrible and we should not be doing this to each other, so it opened the door to a shift in consciousness. Who is that? Oh, thank you, Janine, that's so nice of you. So it was an opportunity for a shift in consciousness, right? Yeah, and it's almost like an internal choice made that, oh, now I see. Now I'm seeing that. Somebody else might be there and they might have that same experience, but then they go right back to where they were. No. That's just, they go back to the way. So they didn't take that opportunity for a shift in thinking differently, seeing things differently. Because that's what a shift in consciousness is. It's seeing things differently. Seeing things from a higher perspective is what it is. A spiritual perspective, a higher perspective. What's going on with teenagers today? What's the matter with kids? They are not motivated, and teachers are overstimulated with stress. Thanks. Okay. It's kind of like there's a lot going on. So the people that are like teenagers and kids, they are going to change the world. They're going to shift the world. They're really going to. But part of what's happening right now is things are falling apart, and they're sort of. Now I'm going to be talking about because they're showing me like the West. So what's going on with Western teenagers? What's going on with them? And so there's all of this access to all of this information and what everybody's going through, and all of the things people are putting out on social media, and all the things that are, it's a lot. It's a lot of stimulus and a lot of information. And basically they're kind of getting, it's almost like they're overloaded. And you think of what happens when you overload like a computer, right? It doesn't work. It glitches. It's it can't take anything else on board. And think about how different the world was, say, like in the 70s and 80s, before we had all of this stuff 24/7, all the time, before we had any of that. And it could be still hard to concentrate in school, right? You can imagine with all of these distractions, because they're showing it as though it's like a computer overload. And what's going to happen is there is going to be a kind of a crumbling of the way things work and have worked for a really long time, kind of things like that ending. You almost can feel like and I'm not saying like it's the complete end of capitalism, but you can feel that we're kind of getting there, in that people are just buying stuff they don't really know why. People are, it's like the system's not working anymore, and we're so stubborn because for the longest time it worked. Was we can't just keep buying stuff and it just keeps working, but there's other thing. The chickens are coming home to roost, right? We can't have capitalism where we're just destroying the environment. We can't have it where we're just have tons and tons of stuff that's not going to degrade, that's not degradable. We can't have all of this slave labor all over the world just to serve capitalism, right? It's all of that negative, bad energy is coming back. And for a long time it worked. It worked. And it's not working anymore. And not only that, the world has changed so much. And not only that, we are starting to get into technology that we don't even fully understand yet, right? So all of this stuff is happening, and these younger kids are sort of taking everything on in all these different ways. Plus, they went through the pandemic. They went, as kids, they went through the pandemic. But because of all these things, it's almost like they're going to sort of lead the way into a new way of doing things. And but right now everything's sort of disintegrating. Everything's sort of and like at a fever pitch, right? So that's what's going on, right? But where we're going is important as well, which is that these systems that do not work, they're not serving us. We're done with these things that don't work anymore. We're gonna see them crumble, and we're gonna rebuild them. And they are going to be sort of the architects of the next phase, which is going to be much more geared to humanity rather than just the almighty dollar or the power. It's going to be about humans. And so I feel like with what they're experiencing is kind of it's almost like they're making me feel kind of like that song where you talked about that kind of crescendo of just noise, right? And they're going to be the ones to shift it, because they know it's not good for them. It's not good for them. So they'll be the ones to shift it and change it going forward. And this is years down the road, but it's going to take a little while for us to. Right now we're just in the unearthing phase, right? Everything's coming out. We need to see things for what they are. We need to see our institutions for who they work for and who they really don't. And we need to see the lies we've been told about, whatever, capitalism, and what we need to see everything. And then there'll be a period of sort of facing it, dealing with it. That means people going to jail, shutting programs down, breaking up conglomerates, or whatever it means. And then we'll have the period of healing. And I feel like that's when they're probably going to be in maybe their mid-20s or early 30s, deciding on what this looks like going forward, right? So they have a pivotal role in everything that's going to happen, but it's kind of like they're going through it all, right? They are even the ones that have to deal with guns in schools and stuff. They're dealing with all of it. All of the fallout is falling on top of them. So they're going to kind of watch it, as it sort of disintegrates, and then they're going to be the ones to say, okay, you guys, we're not doing this anymore. We're doing something different, and this is what it's going to look like. And so they're going to be pivotal in doing things differently in the future. So All right, so I'll do one more because we're just over time just a little bit. Dear Kim, I saw a video today about an NDE where he described, let me get my glasses on again, described seeing an infinite number of universes. Are there different guides for souls in those universes, or can our guides be in all of those at once? Okay. So what I'm getting, that was weird. That was kind of like a download, a little bit like a download, but it's kind of like guides, the way we think of them, are an earthly thing. It's something that we need as we come to Earth. We need a team that helps us to navigate this weird realm that we're in. And in this space where we forget, right? We completely forget like where we're from and what's going on. So they're there to guide us through this very different kind of experience. So guides are sort of needed. It's kind of like they're showing the equivalent of like a deep sea diver going down with an oxygen tank. It's like they need that to be in this space. And so we need guides and loved ones and angels and people, helping us guide us, because that's what this atmosphere requires for us. Every realm is not like that. Every universe is not like that, where you need guides. When you leave here, because they just said, that's why I said it was kind of like a download, because when we leave here, they may still be like our mentors and teachers and things like that, or the council, like heard of the council, the people that are just extremely wise and just very knowing, but they are really our friends. They're our peers. Here we kind of put them in this hierarchy, like they're above us, and they're not. They're just our friends. They're people that we have gone through things with and that know us really, really well and know everything about us, right? They not only because they just know us, maybe lifetimes they've gone through with us, but they go and study us. They know exactly where we've been, exactly what we want to do, what we're trying to achieve, what are our downfalls, what are the pitfalls that we fall into time and time again, right? They know all of this stuff. When we go back there, they're our peers, they're our friends, they're part of our soul family, or at least very, very good friends, close friends, but they're part of our team, so yeah, so what puts them in that position for us, that kind of guide position, is Earth. That's what puts them in that position, and that's why they're there. So other universes, they may not require something like that. They'll maybe require something else. Maybe you need an angel with you all the time, or who knows. But it sounds like to me that the guides that are focused on Earth are focused on Earth. They're focused on people on Earth. So they may split their time with other people. They may. I get the feeling that there are some that don't, some that do, and some that don't. Because maybe they're just with you when you're just a child, or just as you're going through school, they're there, and then they kind of do something else or go with someone else. But from what they're telling me, the guides that we know that are with us are focused on Earth, and because we need that kind of help here. I think that's a good analogy that they gave me with the oxygen tank, that's what you need when you're underwater, and when you're up, and you're out, you don't need the oxygen tank anymore, right? So it's a need that we have here, and it's an earthly thing. It's an Earth thing, and it may be on other planets too, where we have something like that. But it seems like the ones that are helping us are very focused here. Okay, so I hope that helped. I hope that helps to understand. What a really good question. Really good questions today, you guys. I really appreciate it. Yes, I'll see you Thursday. We're going to be talking to Gandhi on Thursday, so that should be very enlightening and very interesting. And I really look forward to that. I can't wait to feel his energy. I usually start kind of communicating and talking to them on about Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday. Sometimes they'll come in earlier. But that'll be very interesting. I'm very interested to feel that energy, what that energy feels like. Yeah, and it's also very interesting that we've been talking to a lot of people that were assassinated. I think that's kind of interesting. I think it does speak to the time we're in. We're in just a weird time where there is more anger and frustration, and it's, in my view, it's very manufactured by certain people and things that have an ulterior motive, but it is there, very much like earlier times. We're in those energies, and so it's really helpful, I think, to speak to some of these people that lived in those kind of times and maybe have an understanding of it from their own lifetime. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much. Have a great Sunday, and I will see the org class tomorrow. It starts tomorrow. It's full. I'm sorry about that, but it's full. And then I'll see the club on Wednesday, and I think on Thursday too. I think we're doing our movie club on Thursday. If you're interested in the club, hit any join button on any video, or you can go and read about it on the website. I'll have everything kind of in the description of what it is, okay? All right, everybody. Thanks again. Have a good one. Have a great rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.